Hello and welcome to Bonus Action Dash. My name is Jaren and this is part 2 of my Roll20 crash course. In the first video, we went through some of the basics. We talked about some of the really basic tools. We did some navigational stuff, talked a little bit about best practices. We made some tokens, made some maps. And in this video, we're going to be talking about dynamic lighting and how to make those maps look really nice so when your player tokens move around, the lighting changes with them. Before we jump in, just a quick reminder that if yours looks different than mine, I'm using Firefox and I'm also using the VTT Enhancement Suite plugin. Big quality of life improvements if you're running any sort of virtual tabletop, specifically Roll20. That said, let's begin. So first I want to navigate over to the tokens page that we made before. Once again, this is a place you're going to keep all of your tokens for your campaign because it's going to have all the settings that you've established, so you don't have to do that again and again every time you need tokens on your map. So we're gonna do this once, set it, come back to this every time we need it again. I double click the token because I need to turn on dynamic lighting. By default, this should be turned off, so I just need to click on. This will give it the ability to see. And all this really does is says if your page has dynamic lighting established, that token will be able to see as long as there is some light source. For now, let's just assume that this token has some sort of dark vision. Instead of 60 feet, just so that it's the area of vision is small enough that we can see, because 60 feet on a gridded map is pretty big, especially when you're dealing with 5-foot squares. Let's just say 30 feet. And there's some other settings that we're not going to deal with yet. Now, if this wasn't somebody with dark vision, or maybe it's dark vision and they also have a lantern or something, that's where we need to go and change something like this. Token emits light. Maybe they're carrying a torch. We'll turn on bright light and say that it's 20 feet of brightness and then 20 more feet of low light. This is where you would do that. For now, I'm not going to worry about these settings. We're just going to establish dark vision. Now this is ready to go. We'll copy the token over to our first map. I'm going to put this on here. And as you can see, there are a number of environmental things, I guess is the fancy way to say it, that are going to block our vision. This little ridge here, these rock piles, these trees are all things that would theoretically hinder my line of sight. First, before we do anything with lighting, I need to go and turn on dynamic lighting on this page. So we'll go up to the page toolbar, click the gear icon for settings, go over to the dynamic lighting tab, and simply turn it on. Now it's basically ready to go. There's some other settings here that for 99% of purposes, you don't really need. I think some of these are just also older settings from the old way of doing dynamic lighting. There is one that you might want to mess with. This is the GM darkness opacity. This will, I'll turn on dynamic lighting first and show you. So as soon as I click save, you see that something has changed. We see this circle around this token. We see this area of darkness. This circle represents what the player can see. This darkness is everything that they can't. And if I go into the settings again, and I mess with the GM darkness opacity, I'll show you what this does. Let's turn it all the way up. It makes all this darkness completely black. I don't really like this because that means that I, the dungeon master, can't see what's in this area. If I turn it all the way down, you can probably guess what that's going to do. It's simply going to make any darkness not visible. I also don't like that. So somewhere in the middle is usually good. Doesn't need to be exact. That's probably fine. Now, when I move around, you can see that the token's area of vision changes with it. A really helpful shortcut to remember. I would write this down, burn it into your brain if you're going to do dynamic lighting. Click on the token, hit Control L. This will allow you to see from that token's perspective as if you were that token. This is going to be very, very useful for when you're testing out your maps and making sure that your dynamic lighting is what you think it is. Will also be helpful for you to troubleshoot and, figure out before you run your sessions, oops, my character token can't see. I need to go and turn on their dark vision. For example, if this for some reason was turned off, now when I hit Control L, I can maybe, there we go. even my VTT enhancement suite pop-up will say, hey, your token doesn't have dark vision. And we can see this token can't see anything. So reminder, I need to turn it on. And now it is back on and we can see now. So let's start drawing some barriers. And establishing dynamic lighting is as simple as drawing lines on the map. We need to go to the dynamic lighting layer, and that's easy enough to do. We go over to the layer navigation tool, go to dynamic lighting, and now we're ready to start drawing some lines. So we need to draw with the drawing tool. We'll go over here. Let's select polygon line, and whatever this default is going to be good enough. We have some settings. Wall and regular is the default. Just to show, there are one-way walls and transparent walls. We're going to use one-way in the next map. We can also change the thickness. Regular is probably fine for most purposes. And now it's a simple matter of just drawing lines. Here we go. I was trying to move the map around. So we'll go back to polygon line, and all we need to do is just draw where we want the boundary to be. I'm going to establish one first at the top of this ridge here, because I imagine this idea that if you're at the top of the ridge, you can see everything in the valley down here. And if you're at the bottom, you can't see what's up top. So I'm actually going to change this to one-way wall. And let's draw our lines. Now, best practices are going to be, you don't want to draw exactly on the edge, because if someone's down here, you still want them to be able to see this nice rocky ridge. So I'm going to actually draw it just on the inside. And it's simple, just left click, drawing these segments. And when I'm drawing a segment, when I get all the way to the end, I right click and it says, yep, we're done. So now when I click over on the token, I can see that we have established lighting. And if I Control L to view from that perspective, you can see that this actually is correct. Once they're up top, you can see down. And when they're looking up from the bottom, you can't see up top. And that's exactly what we wanted. Now, if for some reason I messed this up and I wanted it to go the other way, let's go back into dynamic lighting. Now we get to see this line. I think also a best practice, you probably want to draw in a color that's a lot easier to see. There is a way to change the color. There we go. If we just click, this will change the thickness. This box to the left allows us to change colors. This green is not exactly visible. In all of my games, I've drawn dynamic lighting lines with hot pink, just because it's a lot easier to see. So now if I said, this actually is the wrong way, I want it to go the other way, this one-way wall, all I need to do is select it and click this swap direction. Pretty simple. And now you can see, this is not what I want, but just to show you, when I'm up top, I can no longer see down, and when I'm from the bottom, I can definitely see up top. That's not what we want. That's the exact opposite of what we want. So let's put it back. The other things that we're going to want to establish dynamic lighting on are all these obstacles, these trees and stuff. So best practice for trees is to draw X's. If you were to try to draw circles around these, well, first of all, you risk them being completely invisible to your players. And I'll show you what I mean. If I go back here, let's draw a circle. I'll draw a circle around this, and I'll try to get it close and go, well, yeah, this is what I want. I actually did this the wrong way. I didn't know you could do this with a circle. I don't want one way. What I want is a wall. So we don't want a one-way circle. We want a one-way, we want a circular wall is what I was trying to do here. If I draw this around the tree and try to get really close, now when I click on the token, you can see, well, they can barely even see that it's a tree, and they can't see past it. It's not very realistic, because if you think down from first person perspective, you could certainly see a little bit. Your vision would be kind of obscured. It's kind of hard to tell what this even is, though. So what we want to do as a sort of best practice, instead, we're going to draw some X's. We have this on wall. We don't want one way. We just want to draw some walls with the line tool. And I don't want to extend these lines all the way to the edge. I just want to get maybe here is probably good. So I'll draw one line segment. I'll draw another cross here. And now if we look at it, this is going to look a lot better. It's not great, honestly, but it's a lot better than a circle. They can still see that it's a tree. They can still tell that they can't see beyond it. And when we move around, obviously the view goes with it. So if I was going to finish this map, I'd continue out and draw X's on all these little bushes here. May even draw a single line on this fallen tree. I'd want to continue and draw the lines on this ridge, maybe some X's on these rocks. And that would be pretty good. And I'd have a decent map. Let's go now over to the other map. I'm going to go back. I want to start doing some dynamic lighting on this map. It's a little bit different. Let's go back to our tokens. I'm going to copy this over. I'll go over to this map here, paste the token on. Just as before, we need to turn on dynamic lighting on this particular page, and we'll be all good. We can see that this is working just as we wanted it to. Just to double check, we can Control L. And now, yeah, this works. We have dynamic lighting functioning. At least it's working to the degree that we've established so far. Now, taking a look at this building here, this kind of looks like like someone's farmhouse or something. We can see there are basically 3 segments of walls. We have this one on the left and bottom, one that kind of finishes up the right-hand side and the top here. And we've got a window here, and a double door at the bottom. So we want to draw 3 wall segments, and then I'll show you how to do windows and doors. So just as before, dynamic lighting. Let's grab the draw tool. Let's grab the polygon line. We do want a wall. We don't want one way or transparent. And now all we're going to do is draw some line segments. We want to stay in the middle of these walls because we want players to be able to see the walls. If I draw too close to the inside, then somebody on the inside of the building wouldn't be able to see it. So simple matter of left clicking and right clicking once we're done. And you can see that it's already established a lighting barrier. Let's draw the top. We'll finish off the right-hand side. Again, doesn't need to be exact. I think this is actually, I want to fix this. This is a little bit too on the inside. I want it to be more in the middle. That's pretty good. And now, if we go back and look at the token, we can see now that these walls are in fact working. And another thing you need to establish is, I believe this is probably in page settings. But when you turn on dynamic lighting and you start adding in things like doors and windows, it will say, do you want to restrict movement? And what that does is it prevents character tokens from going through walls and locked doors and windows. So as you can see, my token can't go through the wall. Obviously, that wouldn't make any sense. Because we have not established any windows or doors yet, they can move through these sections freely. Let's go back now and put down some windows and doors. And the way that this is done, this is a new way, as far as I know, within the last couple of months. The old way was kind of a pain. But now if we go down to this magic hand tool over here, we see we have some options. We have place light, place window, and place door. Does exactly what it says. So let's make some windows. We click it and we'll plop them down here. And let's click the door. We'll put this down here. We still need to make sure that these extend all the way to the edges. These are going to appear on the player layers as well, the tokens and the tokens layer, because as far as I'm aware, players can see these icons to indicate to them that yes, they are in fact windows and doors. Let's go back over to dynamic lighting, and now we see we have these little handlebars, these little things that we can use to drag. We'll make sure that these are all the way at the edges, and we even can, we can change the way that these lines work. We just click and drag. We want to make sure that they are at least past the edge of our wall here slightly, past the edge of the previous boundaries that we drew. If we don't, otherwise we risk there being a little bit of light leaking through. So we at least go a little bit past that. And we'll make sure the same thing for the windows. This looks pretty good. Let's do the one up top here. It looks pretty good. By default, these windows they should be not locked. They should be unlocked and not opened. And doors should be not locked and also not opened and also not secret. You can make doors secret so that players can't see them. If a door or window is locked, that means a player cannot interact with it and try to open it. And if a door or window is then opened, they can go through it. So just to demonstrate that, let's go back out. Let's click the token. They are currently unlocked and closed. So we can see the token can see through the window. The token cannot see through the door. Token cannot go through the door. Token cannot go through the window. If I were to click on this and say, let's make the window open. Now, I go back to the token view. Token can still see through the window. Token can go through the window. Token cannot go through locked or closed windows or closed doors. Let's close that one more time. And then lastly, if I open the door, click on the token, Control L, token can now see into the room, can go through the door, can see through the window, cannot go through the window because it is closed. I think that's a super neat function, and it's quite easy. So lastly, with dynamic lighting, what I wanted to do is let's bring it out here a little bit. And I understand that I'm not really representing the fact that this map shows little like lamp posts and stuff. If I really wanted to do that, I could simply go over here to the place light tool and just plop some lights down, and it would, this light tool is it creates a little token that you can move and do whatever you want with. It's just some defaults of bright light 20 feet, low light 20 feet beyond that. So it's just a really handy, quick tool if you don't want to go and create your own tokens that emit light yourself. But let's take those out because I wanted to show something. If I click the token again, and let's Command L, Control L, we can see we're viewing from the token's perspective. Lighting does work, but if we were imagining this is somebody with dark vision, obviously they can't see beyond this established radius because that's how dark vision works. But everything in here is the same brightness. It's all as if it's bright middle of the day brightness, and that's not really how dark vision works. Dark vision, most of the time, I don't know about other systems, but Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, you can view darkness as if it were dim light, meaning it's like, black and whites and grays and stuff. And that's not what we're seeing right now. So let's go back into the token settings, go to dynamic lighting, and now we're going to start playing around with these values for tint color and night vision effect. By default, tint vision or tint color is nothing, it's transparent, and night vision effect is none. Let's change this to nocturnal, see what it does. We'll click the token again, Control L. Now we can see this is at least better. It's not exactly what we want because some things are still pretty full color, but we're at least better. Around the edges, it's starting to get a little dimmer. If we click dimming, as far as I can tell, I've never really used dimming that much. Whatever differences there are is fairly minimal. So I'm just going to stick with nocturnal for now. But let's play around with this tint color and see what happens. Let's just pick a crazy color just to see. We'll say orange. And we can see this is a different, it sort of produces this haze, right? So I clicked off the token, produces this haze. And if you wanted to go for a more realistic dark vision, I found that these first three values all work pretty well, depending on just how dark you want to get. Let me pick the second one and we'll see. Now, this to me looks a little bit more like what I imagine actual dark vision is. You don't get to see as if it's full brightness. You're probably still at disadvantage on perception checks because it's dim light. You can still see into the room through the window. If something was moving around in there, you could still tell. It's just not full brightness of day like the defaults in Roll20 are. So once again, I went into the dynamic lighting in the token settings, changed to nocturnal, and changed the tint color to the second value. To show the difference here one more time, the default is transparent tint and no night vision effect. This does work, and it's fine. If you want something a little bit more realistic, you go in there and change those settings. This is back to the default. Doesn't really look that great in my opinion. So that's how you would change that. I think that's going to be about it for this video. So we established how to make night vision, or how to make dark vision dynamic lighting for your tokens, how to go into the dynamic lighting layer and start drawing some walls, add some windows and doors. Somehow this got moved. I don't know how that happened. We also talked about on the previous page how to establish this one-way sort of wall. So if your characters were on a hillside, for example, they wouldn't be able to see from the bottom to the top, but they could see down into the valley if there was that sort of a thing. And then we talked about best practices for environmental obstacles like trees and bushes and stuff. Instead of drawing big circles, we just drew some X's. It doesn't look perfect, but it looks better than a circle. So next video and final video of this short crash course, we're going to talk about, I don't know why this is still up there. That's so strange. Sometimes Roll20 is funky, but you get to see on video how it's sometimes funky. In the next and final video of this short crash course, we're going to talk about the jukebox and start adding in music to our games. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.